Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and welcome back to another video. And this one's really exciting, something I always get pumped up for, and it's my TBR for Nonfiction November. And if you don't know what that is, it's a sort of nonfiction based reading event that Olive over at a Book Olive has been putting out for a couple of years now. I think 5 or 6 years so far. And I'm always just really excited whenever nonfiction gets its like just its like place in the sun or whatever, and it's in the spotlight, just because I love nonfiction, as you guys probably know, whoever's followed my channel for any length of time. Like I said, I think nonfiction definitely gets the short end of the stick. So anytime nonfiction is out there, I'm always happy. So definitely go check out her announcement video. I'll leave a link down below for that if you haven't heard of it already. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. And the only real requirement for Nonfiction November is super chill, super laid back readathon. That's why I kind of like nonfiction readathons too. They're always very like open and just kind of like just very go with the flow type of thing. The only real requirement to participate in Nonfiction November is to read a single work of nonfiction. So definitely very easy for people to obtain, and hopefully during the course of November, I'm going to try and set a goal for myself and put out at least 20 nonfiction related, or at least 20 videos, upload 20 nonfiction-ish videos kind of to go along with Nonfiction November, just because I love nonfiction so much. Don't hold me accountable because there's a good chance it's not going to happen, but I'm definitely going to try. October was definitely a missed month for me. I think I only put out like 4 videos. But I got a ton of nonfiction reviews I got to do anyway, so hopefully, I kind of get in the swing of things and just put out a bunch of stuff. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get started with the TBR. And also one more thing before I know I just keep adding things. I apologize for my face looking like just a beet red beet. Yes, looking like a beet. I just got done working out, even though it's like super late at night, and I can just like tell my ears are like super red and my cheeks are red and stuff. But anyways, that's why I look like a beet. So now let's go ahead and get started. There are 4 loose prompts every year with Nonfiction November, but what they are just single kind of words, like just open words that you can kind of interpret however you want, and you can choose to follow them or you can just choose to ignore them completely. And the 4 words this time are, let's see, discovery, time, buzz, and movement. And you can kind of just incorporate those sort of concepts into any of your TBR if you want to, and you can obviously, like I said, just ignore them if you want to as well. I try to get like one book kind of ish for each one. Some of them are kind of very loosely sort of adapted into the concepts, but let's just go ahead and get started for real this time. All right, first up we have The Antarctic, a very short introduction by Klaus Dodds. I've been doing absolutely horribly terrible, just terrible this year reading my very short introductions. Like I said, one year I did really good reading like 1 a month, or I think I did like 10 out of 12 months. This year I think I read two I think, and I've actually had a fairly decent reading year, so I have no excuse. I just always put in my TBR and then just like toss it to the side apparently. But anyways, this month I'm going with The Antarctic, just because it's kind of like a cool kind of environmental nature type read that I really enjoy. Like I said, most of these very short introductions I've really liked, and I purposely started the read the first chapter on this one, just so I can like kind of force myself to get going with it in the month of November. So there's my first read right there. All right, next up is Dragon's Teeth and Thunderstones, The Quest for the Meaning of Fossils by Ken McNamara. And this one I'm going with sort of the concept of discovery, because people have to sort of, go out and discover fossils. Fossils, have to be like found and discovered for people to appreciate them and stuff. But what I really like about this book is it's going to be all about sort of not necessarily just the discoveries themselves, but more of how different cultures and different peoples and different groups, how they sort of interacted with fossils, and like kind of like what they believed they were, and sort of how they sort of interacted with them, like in their like cultural society and stuff. So I think that's going to be really cool. I really don't know too much else about it, to be honest, but it just sounded really cool. Fossils are just kind of a cool sort of niche kind of like little subject, I guess, in history. And I guess in like kind of natural history more than history, but like I said, I was kind of going for it because it's more about like kind of the material culture of fossils after they've been discovered rather than the discoveries themselves. So hopefully this pans out to be really cool, exploration of fossils. All right, next up is a book I requested, and it's Living by the Sword, Weapons and Material Culture in France and Britain, 600 to 1600 by Kristen B. Nuchel. And I just wanted this book because who doesn't want a book all about basically swords. And actually what this book is more about is sort of the material and social history of sort of people that, you know, had swords as a weapon in the period of, you know, 600 to 1600, or excuse me, 600 to 1600, which would have been like kind of the beginning of like sort of the Dark Ages, the early Middle Ages, down through like the Renaissance era. And it's gonna, so obviously swords are actually a pretty high class elite weapon, even in like kind of medieval society. So it's kind of be, like I said, it's gonna be about sort of kind of aristocratic material life, and I'm kind of hoping it's more like kind of a social history, kind of material object history. I always, like I said, I always enjoy social histories. If you've been following my channel, you probably know that. But anyways, who doesn't want to read a social history about kind of like the meaning of swords and just sort of, you know, how they, you know, the role they played in medieval life and culture. I thought it sounded really cool, so there's that. All right, next up is a book I've been wanting to read for like a year now, and I just haven't got to it, and it's Poached: Inside the Dark World of Wildlife Trafficking by Rachel Love Newer. And this one I'm kind of going with the word buzz because I was trying to think of like, you know, like buzzword, I guess. And in sort of, you know, environmental circles and animal rights circles, obviously poaching, and like kind of the illegal, you know, animal trade, or like, you know, for example, like the ivory trade and stuff. You know, poaching obviously is like, you know, a buzzword and stuff. Though I want to learn more about it, just because I don't know too much about like animal trafficking and illegal animal hunting and stuff, or at least like big game, like animal poaching and whatnot. But I just like kind of as a weird buzz type concept. My whole thing with poaching, just from what I've learned actually with a lot of like other things, like when I read a book on the ivory trade itself, is how poaching, you know, like I said, trafficking kind of, you know, it's a good buzzword because it gets people's attention and people have a really strong emotional response to it. Even though I think in the grand scheme of things, poaching is actually more of a kind of a minor, I don't want to say it's minor, but in the grand scheme compared to, for example, like habitat loss, poaching is fairly, I don't want to say negligible, but just not as big of an impact as, like I said, like habitat loss and sort of climate change and things like that. However, poaching has definitely more of like kind of an emotional, visceral response from people for like, you know, gathering like funds and whatnot for different charities and organizations. So I think that's why it's going to be kind of cool to learn about poaching. Just for an example, like for people that are like, what the heck are you talking about, Justin? Just for example, like the illegal ivory trade in Africa, from elephant tusks and stuff. While that is true, that's obviously it's terrible. It's not cool that obviously, you know, an elephant or two gets like poached every couple of days in Africa. However, in a lot of the actual parks that are run really well, such as like Kruger National Park in South Africa, they actually have to cull the elephant herds themselves, like the actual like kind of like the game wardens and stuff and park rangers and whatever, just because they prosper so well that they actually do too much like habitat destruction in the parks themselves, and they have to kind of keep a balance, and they're already like just like killing them off themselves, just as part of sort of their kind of like maintenance of the park system and whatnot. But that's because the elephant populations are actually doing really well. So like I said, if they're already kind of culling them, like I said, obviously illegal trade is terrible. I'm not saying that's not important at all. I'm just saying it has a bigger reaction, and so lots, you know, you get a more visceral reaction seeing like dead elephants getting poached for their like tusks and stuff, rather than, you know, just like reading every like 2 seconds an acre of like Amazon rainforest is cut down or whatever. Anyways, that was like my totally long tangent, and Poached is my concept, my book to fit the concept of buzz for buzzword. Like I said, I just want to learn more about kind of the whole dark world of wildlife trafficking, because like I said, I don't know too much about the actual trafficking aspect of all the different kinds of, you know, the illicit, you know, trafficking trade. If that makes any sense. All right, next one up is Bernd Heinrich's Winter World: The Ingenuity of Animal Survival. If you've been following my channel, you know I love Bernd Heinrich. He's a really cool natural historian who kind of has a log cabin in my state of Maine, so I think that's really cool. But this one I'm going with the concept of time, because winter is a time period that is really hard on animals, especially like in the far north, kind of where Bernd Heinrich and I live in Maine, where, you know, 6 months out of the year it's below freezing pretty much, and there's like, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of snow on the ground. So it's gonna be cool just kind of learning about how all these animals actually survive, because I actually don't know how some of them really get by, because you know, you think of like hibernation with bears and stuff, even though I think technically it's torpor with bears, but it's kind of, I don't really understand. Like, I know frogs hibernate somehow in like ponds and whatever in the mud. They like freeze themselves somehow, but like I don't really understand how that's like possible. So I'm hoping this book kind of like addresses that issue. You know, how do like kind of birds and a lot of like kind of small mammals that don't hibernate and whatever, you know, how do they actually get like the energy in like kind of the resources to stay alive during wintertime, especially when those resources are pretty scarce. Just like I said, in the dead of winter, January, February, when it's, you know, 30, 40 below zero, and there's not much fruit and nuts or whatever left either on, well, you can't obviously get to the ground or whatever if there's snow. But anyways, I'm going on and on and on and on. But anyways, that's my concept book, or I don't want to keep saying concept, but my book for the concept of time. All right, we got two more. Next up is American Axe, The Tool That Shaped a Continent by Brett McLeod. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And I just thought this was kind of a cool book. It's dealing, there's a lot of pictures and whatnot, but it's for people that, I don't actually collect axes and stuff, but I chop my own firewood and whatnot sometimes, so like I have axes and whatnot. So I thought it was going to be kind of cool learning out how, like, you know, real like hand forged axes are made, like kind of the different design patterns and kind of like the history of axes in North America and in the United States in particular, just because, like I said, I live in the sticks, literally. Like, if you've seen any of my nature walks in the woods and whatever, you know, we're just surrounded by trees up here. And actually, a town not too far from where I live, Bangor, Maine, was known at one point as the logging capital of the world, just because we had so many big trees and whatnot. So I thought it'd be kind of cool just learning about, you know, people that actually use like felling axes, you know, like like legit like woodsmen and lumberjacks. Just kind of like that. It's kind of just like in the subconscious of like the population, like where I live, you know, the kind of like the whole lore of the lumberjack type thing. So I just thought it was going to be kind of a cool book to go about and read. And then lastly, for my last nonfiction book that I'm super excited about is a pretty monstrous tome, Judith Herron's Ravenna, the Capital of Empire, Crucible of Europe. And I'm really excited about this one. For those who don't know or know anything about the city of Ravenna, for a little while during the fall of the Western Roman Empire, it's during its decline in the 5th century CE, Ravenna was actually basically the seat of empire, the capital of the Western Roman Empire. Rome was not. Rome was actually sacked like what 410 and 455. Ravenna is actually the capital where, you know, everything. That's where the emperor lives, and though, you know, they might not have been like too authoritative in their own right and stuff, but Ravenna was kind of, like I said, the seat of empire and everything. That's where the, you know, imperial court was and stuff. But a lot of people don't realize, like, Rome didn't stay the capital of the Roman Empire till the end. So I thought that's kind of really cool, and it's kind of dealing with, I'm hoping, like the entire history of Ravenna. I'm not sure if it just sticks with the Roman period, but kind of goes into the more like kind of medieval era as well. But I hope it does deal a lot with kind of the social and cultural history of Ravenna as well, just because, as you can see, kind of the mosaics here. If you've ever seen the famous mosaic of Theodora and Justinian of the Byzantine emperor, that is actually like a mosaic found in Ravenna somewhere. So they had like a really cool like cultural and like artistic life in Ravenna. So that's what I said. Hopefully pans out to be really cool. Like, and it's just kind of a unique, kind of cool. I always like when history books come out on like kind of like little niche topics like this. So super excited for Ravenna, and I'm loosely adapting this for the concept of movement, because, you know, the seat, like I said, the capital had to move from Rome to Ravenna. I know it might be kind of a stretch, but I am going with it. So there you have it. Those are the books I want to read in November for Nonfiction November. Please let me know if you're participating in this reading event, and let me know what book you're most excited to read. I'm always on the lookout for lots of nonfiction recommendations, always. And I found several good ones from you. Also, yeah, keep them coming. Don't forget to check out my don't even bother with Twitter. My Twitter sucks. But check out my Instagram. I think it does pretty cool, and I got some stuff going on there. Kind of excited about it. Definitely check that out. Leave some comments, like it, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and always remember, whether you're participating in Nonfiction November or not, remember, read victoriously.